Welcome to Whistle Stop. I'm Patty Sullivan, Public Affairs Director. We have on my right here Mayor Vern Halter of the Mat-Su Borough.
Thanks for having me.
John Moosey, Borough Manager. And we have Hugh Leslie, Library and Recreation Services Manager. So first we're going to talk about the election and the recreation bond, 22 point some million dollars. Do you want to give an overview on that?
Sure. Yeah, fortunately for a lot of our buildings, a lot of our trails, a lot of recreation amenities, the voters went out and voted very strongly in support of the recreation bond.
And I'll just say, it's a great thing to have this recreation bond on. We're fixing up both high school swimming pools, Palmer and Wasilla. We're fixing up the Brett Ice Arena, 3.7 million to that, isn't it? And then we had projects throughout the borough, smaller projects, trail projects, and things that mean a lot, and it passed handsomely.
Yeah, 9 different trail projects and about a half a dozen other recreation type projects located throughout the borough.
And thank you very much to the voters for your vote. I don't know what we would have done without this vote because our pools were shot. Mm-hmm. We were looking between doing improvements to those or closing them down. And after 30 years, stuff just wears out. So thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Came just in time.
I want to say the same thing. Thank you. And from a mayoral standpoint, it was really nice to see all the voters get in there and vote so heavily in favor of this rec bond. And of course, there's no match for the state or anybody like that. So we're very proud of that, and we'll fix the pools up and the ice arena. So
absolutely.
And thanks to you, Hugh, for all the work your department did on that.
It was a stressful time for us. We knew we were up against the wall in terms of the life of those facilities, and wanting to have a place for the kids and adults and seniors to recreate, to swim, to stay physically fit, to stay healthy. And now we've got literally a pass for the next 20 to 25 years to make sure that happens.
How does that work now with designing and on the pools and things like that? Is there public involvement, or how do we go about that?
We did a study of all of our facilities back in 2012, 2013. What came out of that was some preliminary design. We will reach back out to our user groups to make sure that if any of those designs have changed, if any of the needs have changed, we'll incorporate that in the design of what happens inside those facilities.
So you'll have a pretty technical engineering type draft plan that everybody can see and comment on? Yeah,
absolutely. We'll take those initial drawings and then sort of ferret those back out, reach out to the user groups through public meetings, and then have them come in and say, maybe we want this instead of that for this, for this invocation of the project. And then, we'll do design and bidding, and then unfortunately, we'll feel the impact of closing one aquatic facility for up to 9 months.
To get it fixed, to do the renovations. It'll be that long, 9-month period.
Yeah. And we'll start actually with the Wasilla pool, so that we can still hold competitive swimming meets at the Palmer pool. Once Wasilla is done, we will actually be increasing the size of that pool so that they can hold swimming meets, and then turn around and dive in to the Palmer pool.
So big project, well-planned project.
Yes, they will all be ferreted out. And then in between those two, we'll start the Brett Ice Arena project.
Now, Hugh, it's interesting the economic climate in which it passed. It was a little surprising, wasn't it?
It was very surprising. I understand and I sympathize with those folks that are feeling the economic pinch right now. But our research has shown that folks are committed to recreation. It's very important to them. It's an economic generator for the borough. And, people say they vote with their pocketbooks, and I think the folks really said they were willing to pay $4 a month to have not only the 3 facilities that we're highlighting, but the 9 trails and the half dozen plus other recreation facilities.
And it's a family thing too, as I got every user group, some, mothers and fathers with their children using the pools, and I think that went a long ways.
Well, it's fortunate, the pools have been there long enough that we have, in addition to fathers and mothers, we have grandparents. And I would almost venture we have some great-grandchildren that are in those pools now. And so it's a wonderful cornerstone for the community. And the other thing to consider, Alaska has the highest juvenile drowning rate in the nation. And the more people that we can teach how to swim, the better off we are. Last year we taught over 34,000 swimming lessons, individual lessons to individual kids. That's huge out there. That means that if somebody does go into the water unexpectedly, that hopefully they're able to get out of the water in a quick manner.
Yep. Oh, great, good work.
34,000, that's quite a lot.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much, Hugh, for your time.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So we brought on Alex Strawn, Development Services Manager, to talk about what's next after the election and the proposition that failed.
Yeah, there was a ballot initiative to prohibit marijuana-related facilities within the borough with the exception of industrial hemp. That proposition failed, and so at this point, marijuana would be legal in the borough, at least cultivation facilities and retail facilities. So as of October 20th, we are open to accepting applications for a conditional use permit to get approved to operate in the borough. And those can be applied for concurrently with state license as well.
Will the state license actually, will that suffice for the borough, or is it a separate application?
It's a separate application, a separate process. They can do it at the same time. However, they'll have to get both in order to operate within the borough.
And what was the vote on that proposition?
What was the vote? Like the spread?
Yeah, the spread.
Do you have those numbers?
I do. It was 10,508 no on prohibiting marijuana to 8,694 yes.
So another one that passed substantially.
Yeah.
Did that surprise you at all? You've been working on
I
this?
had no idea what to expect. But we did have a moratorium in place until after the vote was certified, and that is now lifted. So it's a green light, go, so to speak.
And what's the status of the cities vis-a-vis the borough?
So it is still prohibited within the city of Wasilla and the city of Palmer. The city of Houston is a place where people can establish through a permitting process that they have established as well.
Within the city of Houston?
Correct.
And we'll share sales taxes with the city of Houston?
Yeah, sales tax is non-area wide.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the restrictions.
Or area wide, I'm sorry. Some of the restrictions. So for cultivation facilities, there are some setback requirements. 100-foot setback from property lines and 50-foot from the right-of-way. And the idea with that is to sort of help with the smell issues, the odor issues that come with cultivation facilities. They're going to have a security plan, plan to dispose of their waste, all sorts of different precautions and standards that are going to be required as part of one of those operations. Retail facilities we want located in commercial areas. We don't have specifically designated commercial zones, so each one will be looked at individually and will be evaluated on an individual level by the Planning Commission.
And then with the size of the borough, there's going to be some deference for rural areas and things like that when you're looking at those issues?
Yeah, so for cultivation facilities, we're definitely looking at hoping to locate them on larger lots so they can be buffered from their neighbors. Retail facilities, we want more in a commercial setting, so more clustered with the commercial.
Residential areas, I get a lot of questions about how is this going to impact me, be in my residential area, be in my subdivision, how does that handle?
Yeah, so our job with the Planning Commission is to ensure that these don't have, or at least the negative impacts on residential areas are minimized. If we had more specific zoning, that would be easier to do, and because we don't have that individual basis. But that is certainly what the Planning Commission is there to do.
So this is treated like a conditional use permit, so it'll always have a public hearing, it'll always come in front of the Planning Commission, and the public will always have a chance to comment on that individual specific permit.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a good process.
And you've got setbacks from schools and churches.
That's correct, and there's some overlap with the state. We have decided to increase the setbacks from schools to 1,000 feet. The state is 500, we're at 1,000. There's also setbacks from recreation youth facilities and religious facilities as
So
well.
1,000 feet, that's less than a quarter mile.
Yeah.
So that's a good standard, isn't it?
Yep.
How about the fee?
It's $1,000 to apply. Yep.
And you're taking applications right now.
And we'll take applications right now. The application form is online and the regulations are online as
So
well.
if you denied a permit by the Planning Commission, what happens to the fee?
The fee is non-refundable. However, there is a process if there's an appeal process to our Board of Adjustments and Appeals that can be run through by either the people opposing it or the people who are applying for it.
And then if after that decision is made by the Board of Adjustment Appeals,
That can be appealed to Superior
Superior
Court
Court.
and all the way up to the Supreme
so
Court.
you have a remedy all throughout the process.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So how much additional workload do you anticipate because of this new law?
It's a great question. We don't know exactly how many permits are going to be flowing in. I imagine we'll probably process somewhere around a dozen this year. So it'll be a significant extra workload for us. It may mean a longer wait for all the permits in the process.
Do we have any anticipation For example, someone comes in, application is completed, all the information is there. How long does that take for us to process that and get approval from the Mat-Su Borough?
Typically 3 months for a
3
conditional
months.
use permit. That's for all the different types of permits. That's what we shoot for.
So the state of Alaska, so an individual who's received a state of Alaska permit right at this moment still would be in violation of the Mat-Su Borough unless they have a Mat-Su Borough permit through you in the conditional use process.
Yeah, so
I guess that's the point we need to.
Yeah, the Marijuana Control Board is holding a meeting on the 28th where they are reviewing some facilities that would be locating within the borough. We have protested those on the basis that they do not have yet a conditional use permit. So those can be granted delegated approval with the state where they'll approve it as long as they are able to get a permit with us, then it would be given final approval with the state.
And you mentioned if anyone had questions to call up yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Call the permit center or my number is online. You can look it up and give me a call.
And taxes, tell us about taxes a little bit on how it's going to be taxed, marijuana.
Yeah, so 5% tax for marijuana. That includes within the city of Houston. And there's a 3% deferment, right? And John,
For the city of Houston, the commercialization will happen. We'll have to go through a process on how we're going to collect those and do the costs. One option may be is to negotiate with the city of Houston to collect all the marijuana sales tax for a fee and then give it back to us. But we've not determined that yet. We're examining that right now.
Can the Assembly, Mat-Su Borough Assembly, raise the marijuana tax from 5%? What are the restrictions on that?
First, the sales tax has to go to the voters, so they could not initially do that. The second thing is we are required by state law to tax all items equally. So, for instance, we have what we call the bed tax. It's actually a sales tax on rental of beds. That's at 5%, and so the marijuana tax maxes that. We could not increase the tax to 10% or lower it
Without going to the ballot.
without going to the ballot, but they all have to be consistent. So I cannot tax one product at one rate and something else at a different rate. It all has to be equal.
What are some of the other jurisdictions taxing marijuana at? Like we have Anchorage and Fairbanks and Kenai. Do you know some of those rates?
Some of them are sales tax. Some of them are excise tax. And that's what we have on cigarettes. Right now, a pack of cigarettes has an excise tax, which the Assembly can do without a voter approval, at 40%. Tobacco-related products are 50%. So you can see, 40% on a pack of cigarettes versus 5% sales tax on marijuana products. We don't anticipate a huge amount of dollars coming back to the borough to solve our budget problems.
How did we determine whether marijuana was a sales or excise tax? Is it?
What we determined, we brought this forth. Number one, it was brought forth by Assemblyman Mayfield as a sales tax to the voters. So number one, I believe he thought it was important to get this out in front of the public to see how the public felt. The second thing is because it's new. We know sales have been going on quite a bit. But not up front. We have no idea what to anticipate, and we still need to kind of explore the excise tax issue.
Right.
How do we collect that? I mean, all the cigarettes are coming in from outside the state of Alaska, and so we know the point of sale, and we know where they're coming in, so we can grab the excise tax. We don't know that yet for this industry.
Do we have any idea through our administration how much we'll collect? Does the staff have an idea of what we're looking at for?
We are going to be guessing for the 2017-18 budget year about $200,000. But that is a silly guess.
It's a guess.
A silly guess, yes.
Because I think out in the public there's a lot of word out that okay, you're going to get rich and this is going to be a big budget changer. And is that your opinion?
Absolutely not. I mean, for example, we're struggling because the governor cut $5.7 million on a reimbursement for our school bonds. This is not even going to be 1/5 of that. And that's just one item we're struggling with.
And a mill rate, 1 mill is about $8 million in borough revenue, isn't it? A mill against the property.
Right, yes. And so it would be great if it happened. We're just not anticipating. We just don't see it.
It could grow over the number of years, correct?
It could.
Yeah.
It could. The Assembly could Once we figure this out, consider an excise tax. But then again, I mean, that's a struggle. If your tax is too high on cigarettes, then it drives down, and maybe that's part of the purpose, is drives down the sale of cigarettes, and you get less revenue. It's a simple, I think, economic issue. Kind of like, McDonald's has a perfect price for their Big Macs. They have it too high, they're going to sell a whole lot less Big Macs. They have it too low, they're not going to be able to capture the profit that they want. Same thing as we kind of look at these sales tax.
And our tobacco tax, if I recall, 2 or 3 budgets ago, we raised the tobacco tax significantly, and I think it went from $4 million to $8 million revenue. We're coming in just shy of that 7.9 or 8 million. That's a big chunk of money for us.
That is correct. If you look at it, the cigarette excise tax replaces 1 mil. So our citizens, without that cigarette tax, would be paying about 10% more in a property tax.
And our alcohol tax that we did put to the voters was voted down. That was two cycles ago, wasn't it?
That is correct. And that was just a sales tax of 5%. Right. And the citizens said no.
So I guess the thing I'd like the public to know is that, this huge numbers you think of marijuana revenue, marijuana taxes coming into the borough may not be quite as golden as one would want to believe. So that's the message that I think staff has put.
I agree. I don't think it's going to have any significant changes on our operational budget or revenue.
And the vote on that was pretty robust, 5-1. 15,940 voted no to 3,064.
Right, on the tax.
On the tax.
Yes, so people want to see that tax. They want to see us diversify,
Yes.
No doubt about that. And this is one way to do it, but we'll have to see what the revenue's coming in.
And people tend to vote for taxes that they don't have to pay. And we have
No,
two things. We have
you can't be saying that truthfully.
Yes, I can. I mean, how many of us really rent rooms here in the valley? Yes, and marijuana. In fact, I think it's kind of interesting because when they went out for the general vote on public use and also commercialization of marijuana, the Matsu borough voted against it. By numbers, slight numbers, but they voted against. And so they brought this issue up for commercialization, and there was a significant change in the attitude where that got approved. Now, it could have been that the industry got out there and they got the people they wanted and really did a good job getting those folks to the ballot. But there was a big difference between the first vote on just to be able to use it versus now commercialization.
Okay, so next subject, the very great visit with Fitch, bond rating agency. It was the first time they'd ever toured the borough and met with our assembly on site.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity to kind of show them all the investment the borough has made. They have been rating our bond projects for many years. And so the face-to-face, meeting the players, actually seeing quite a few of the projects, I think they left very impressed. And I think that showed with the rating. We have trouble with the state finances, but we were able to hold our AA rating. And that was primarily due to us being able to just demonstrate on what we've done with our dollars, what we've done with our financial management, and despite these challenges, we have a good plan going forward.
And Standards & Poor's kept our rating too, didn't they?
Yes, they did. That was AA+. And we have invited them up to visit us and see the great things we've done. But we also had a nice conference call via a Skype-type product. So they were able to, from a distance, kind of visualize what we're doing and where we're headed.
Actually, having Fitch up here from San Francisco, have them fly in and come up and meet with us. And I want to thank Cheyenne Handel and you for setting it up. I think that's really was, they went out and saw some schools, and they saw our ski chalet and a bunch of other assets.
The hospital.
And the hospital, and I think that's a good way for these people to see what we do.
Yes, there's such a distance, and it really kind of, I think, brings home. I mean, people have so many misconceptions about what the state of Alaska is out there, and they actually see it in person. And I mean, when you go, one thing is you go to the report, you can see pictures of it. Until you get out there, you don't understand the magnitude and the opportunity until you see it in person.
Right.
Cheyenne Heindel, acting finance director, did say the refunding of the older bonds will save the borough $2.8 to $3.2 million.
Keeping those ratings, keeping that AA and AA+ makes a difference, doesn't it?
It certainly does. That's how they base the risk to the investors. And the higher that rating is, the lower
interest rate, right?
Yes.
Or down goes the interest rate, the higher.
Right. The advantage, the higher rating, the more advantages to us, cheaper money to borrow.
Exactly.
Standard & Poor apparently spent 3 times as long stress testing our economy and coming up with their findings due to the state economy.
Yeah, they're very concerned about that, but I think because of not our great reliance totally on the state and in our growth that we've had, you know, one of the things that really impressed them is over the past 6 years, we have not raised our mill rate on the citizens. We've gotten more money because of growth, but the rate has stayed. And we are about half of what we legally could be as far as charges. So they were impressed by that. They are impressed by, I think, our consistency. We have not had highs and lows, but we've been pretty consistent operation.
We've always been below 10 on our mill rate.
Yes.
We've always, this year's 9.98, and a couple years ago we were at 9.66, and we've always had that luxury, even with the growing area. But you know, our tax cap should be about 11.5 this year, would be my guess. We've never taxed at the cap that I recall.
Nope.
And so we have, you know, sometimes that, you know, I can't say that the Assembly won't have to make those decisions, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, an awful lot relies on what the state is going to do to our schools,
Exactly.
how they're going to treat the pension obligation, and also to these school refunding
Right.
burden that they've promised and pledged that they would support, and there's some cracks.
This is going to be one of the most, I guess, important legislative sessions we've had in recent memory, you know, 25, 30, 40 years really, to see if our legislature could get down to June and work with the governor. It seems to be at odds, or nobody was talking or communicating, and, you know, the election cycle's over November 8th, and I guess my hope is it's time for them to go to work and communicate and figure out, you know, what they're going to do. Because you can't just cut everything
Right.
and survive.
This is the last year I think they have options to do stuff. Next year, if they continue the same way, there'll be no options left. There'll be no surplus money, and we're spending $4 and only receiving $1. Everybody knows that's not going to work.
Well, the constitutional budget reserve and the earnings reserve can only last so long. If you're taking $2-3 million out of each of them,
Yeah.
they're only going to last. And then where are we going to be? So this is a critical session. So
That's right. So it's great that we have a stable bond rating. Right?
Yes.
just get this back on subject. I
Well, thank you very much, Mayor and Borough Manager.
Thank you, Patty.
look forward to this. I look forward to a monthly meeting with Whistle Stop.
Go try. You'll have to think about that politically.